working now. Okay. Sorry for the delay, folks. Now, there was just some technical issue at my end. I was not able to connect to the server, so that's been resolved. So, and again, before we start off with the session, just all of the folks who have attended, give me a confirmation if you guys can hear me and if you guys can see my screen, and if everything is in order, we can go ahead and start off with our session. Now, before in that meantime, just till you give me the confirmation, let's just wait for other folks to join in. And also, in that meantime, I'd like to inform that we have launched a completely free learning platform called as Great Learning Academy, where we have close to 100 courses with respect to data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, and a lot more. Now, once you complete these courses on Great Learning Academy, you will get a certificate which you can go ahead and add onto your resume, which will be a huge value add to you guys. And all of these courses have been curated by industry experts who have their PhDs or masters from Ivy League schools such as Stanford and IITs in India. And also, if you'd want to learn through an app, we've got the Great Learning app, the link for which you'll be able to find in the chat. And for those folks who are new to our channel, I'd request to go ahead and hit on the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon, as you'll be notified with whatever new videos which we are coming up, and it'll also encourage us to come up with more such sessions on a regular basis. Great. So today we'll be performing web scraping, and we'll be using a library called as Beautiful Soup for that. And Beautiful Soup is one of the most widely used libraries when it comes to web scraping. And before we do that, we'll just have a quick introduction to Python. So what exactly is Python, and which IDs are we using, why are we using that ID, and just a quick introduction to variables, data types, and maybe a few different data structures which are present in Python. So I'll just go ahead and open up a presentation. Just give me a second for that. So what exactly is Python? It's a free and open source language. Now, when I say it's a free and open source language, what I basically mean is you don't have to pay for it. You can just go ahead and download this language called as Python, and you can immediately start working with it. And this language is also cross-platform compatible. Now, what is cross-platform compatibility? It means that irrespective of whatever operating system you're using, whether you're using a Windows, Mac, or Linux, there shouldn't be any problem at all. You can go ahead and run Python in any of these operating systems. Similarly, Python is also object-oriented. It's an object-oriented programming language. Now, you'd be surrounded with a lot of objects. So when you look around you, the laptop which is there in front of you, that is an object. The phone which is there in your hand, that is an object. The water bottle which is there on the left side of you, that again is an object. Now, if you want to represent all of these real life entities in a programming paradigm, we would need an object-oriented programming language, and Python is one of the most widely used object-oriented programming language. And the best part about Python is it provides a huge library for different purposes. So whatever your purpose is, if you want to perform data manipulation, you'll have a library for that. If you want to perform data visualization, you'll have a library for that. If you want to perform some machine learning tasks, you will also have a library for that. So Python provides anything that you have a requirement for. So now that we know what exactly is Python, let's go ahead and see how can we install Python. So to install Python, you'd have to go to this particular site over here, python.org/downloads. You have to. So now that you have this site in front of you, you would see this particular button over here, download Python 3.8.5. And since I'm using a Windows system, I'll download it for Windows. So whatever system you're using, whether you're using a Windows, if you're using a Windows, you can go ahead and download over here. If you're using a Linux, you can download over here. If you're using a Mac, you can download over here. Now, once we download Python, we would also require an IDE. So what exactly is an IDE? IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and we would require this because it makes our task much more easier. So if you're working with let's say if you're working with Java, then you would have worked with an IDE called as Eclipse. Similarly, if you'd have worked with C or C++, you would have worked with a language called as Dev C++ or Turbo C++. So similarly, in Python, we have a lot of different IDEs, and one such IDE is PyCharm. And if you want to download PyCharm, you'd have to go to this particular site. So PyCharm is a product of JetBrains. So you'd have to go to jetbrains.com/PyCharm. And this is the site. All you have to do is click on download button. And we have the professional version and the community version. And when you download the professional version, you'll only have it as a free trial, but community version is more than enough for us. So when you click on this, the download would automatically start. Now, once you've downloaded PyCharm as well, we will also proceed with downloading a Python distribution, which is Anaconda. Now, which IDE to use, that will totally come down to you. So, but nowadays in the industry, people widely prefer Jupyter Notebook, which is a part of Anaconda. So what exactly is Anaconda? It's a distribution of Python. Now, what do I mean? It's a distribution of Python. It basically gives you a complete toolkit with respect to Python. So now after you've installed Python, if you just go ahead and install Anaconda into your system, it will give you most of the required libraries. So it will give you libraries such as Seaborn, Matplotlib, Pandas, and NumPy. And along with it, you will also get Jupyter Notebook, which is the most widely used Python IDE right now in the industry. So we'll go over here, anaconda.com. So as you see over here, data science technology for a competitive edge, you'd have to click on products. And since we have to get this for ourselves, we'll select individual edition and just click on download over here. And again, this is also platform independent. So if you have a Windows, download it for Windows. If you have a Mac, download it for Mac. And if you have a Linux, you can go ahead and download it for Linux. Now after installing it, this will give us this this ID called as Jupyter Notebook, which is a browser-based interpreter. Now we call this a browser-based interpreter because all of the execution happens in a browser. Now this doesn't require you to have internet connection. Even though you don't have internet connection, you just need a browser. So it works on all types of different browsers. So you can work with Jupyter Notebook on either Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Mozilla Firefox. So you can also call this browser independent. So you can download this and you can start working with it. So if you have to work with Anaconda, just select this Anaconda prompt. This is what is known as command line interface. And if you have to open Jupyter Notebook, just type in Jupyter Notebook over here, and you'd have to keep in mind that this in Jupyter it is Y and not I, and that is how you'll be able to load a Jupyter Notebook. And this, what you see, is the Jupyter Notebook. So if you want to create a new notebook, select this, click on Python 3, and this will be your new Jupyter Notebook. And if you want to let's say save this, go to file. Here you will have you'll have the download as option, so you can go ahead and download this as a .ipynb file. So normally whenever we are working with Jupyter notebooks, we download this as .ipynb file. And if you want to run something, or if you want to execute something, let's say if I want to print out something out of the console, I'll just use the print command over here, and I would want to print out let's just say iPhone cures cancer. Now here, as you see, we have written our first Python program, which is iPhone cures cancer. So this is how you can work with this browser-based interpreter called as Jupyter Notebook. Now we'll just have a quick introduction to some Python basics. So now whenever we are dealing or working with any programming language, what we are mostly dealing with is data. We have a lot of data with us, and we use programming languages to work with this data. But the important question over here is, where do we actually store this data? So this data, whatever we are working with, can be can be stored in a temporary storage space called as a variable. So let's say you want to store the names of some students, and so you have all of these three students over here. You have John, Sam, and Matt, and you would want to store these names somewhere. So what you'll do is you'll go ahead and create a variable called as student, and you will take this name John and store it in this variable. After storing it, so this variable has two things. It has a variable name and a variable address. So now in the student variable, we are storing this value John, but this address, this is arbitrarily given by the Python interpreter. Now, since I've told you that a variable is a temporary storage space, you can change the values which are present in it. So here, what we are doing is, first we are starting out by storing this value John in this variable student. After some time, I want to remove this value, and I would want to store the value Sam inside this. Then again, after some time, I'm removing this value Sam, and I'm storing the value Matt inside it. So this is how we can work with variables, and I'll just give you some simple examples over here. Let's say I have this variable called as A, and I start off by storing the value 10 inside it. Then I go ahead and print this out. So as you see, we have stored this value 10 inside A. Now after some time, I'll go ahead and change the value which is present in it. So this time I'm storing the value 20 inside it, and now when I print it out, you would see that the value has changed. And finally, I'll go ahead and keep it as 30. And again, when I print out A for you guys, you would see that the value again has changed to 30. So this is just a basic intro about a variable. And another thing to note about a variable is always associated with a data type. So if you're working with numbers such as 10 or 500, so these are integer numbers, so 10, 500, minus 27, minus 9000. So all of these would be integers. Then we have decimal point numbers, so 3.14, 15.97, minus 7.92. All of these will be floating point numbers. Then we have Boolean values, and then Boolean values, we will have only two things which are true and false, or we can also call this 0 or 1. Then we have strings. So strings are basically objects which are enclosed within single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. And let's go to Jupyter Notebook and work with these different data types. I'll just give you some simple examples for these. So we'll start off with a numeric variable. So this, what we have, is actually a numeric variable. So I'll have this variable called as num1, and I'll store the value 50 inside this, and let me check the type of it. So inside the type method, I'll pass in num1, and as you guys see, we have the type of this variable to be integer. Then similarly, if I want to create a floating point number, I'll name this as DEC1 and I will store the value 3.14 inside this. Then I'll check the type of it, and inside type I will again pass in DEC1, and this time you would see that this is a floating point number. Next up we have um, we've got boolean values, so I'll just have this as ball1 and I will store true inside it. Then I'll check the type, and inside this I will pass in ball1 and you would see that the type of this is boolean. And finally we've got string, so I'll have str1 over here, and inside double quotes I'll store the value Sparta, and let me check the type of it, and inside this I will pass in str1 and you would see that this is a string type. So now that we have the basics of Python cleared, so we know what is so we know what exactly is Python. We've downloaded Python and we've also downloaded IDEs such as PyCharm and Jupyter Notebook. Now it's time to go ahead and proceed to the main part of today's session, which is web scraping. And for web scraping, we will need this library called as Beautiful Soup, which would help us to extract data from a particular website. So you would have to start off by installing this particular library over here. You would have to type in pip install Beautiful Soup 4. Now after you install this, you would also require the request method. So with the help of this, you will be sending a request to a particular website. So that is why you would have to install this as well. Now before we actually proceed to the next part, let me go ahead and see if there are any questions. You can put in your questions in the chat. I'll take them up. Right, so guys, I just wanted to in the live sessions we have a lot of folks who are new to Python, who are new to programming. So that is why we started by covering a few basics of Python so that you at least know what is happening in this particular session. So now that we know the basics of Python, we will go ahead and start off with the main part of our session. Garvit is asking, can you use Visual Studio Code? Sure. IDE is again not really important. So irrespective of whatever IDE you're using, whether you're using PyCharm or Jupyter Notebook or Visual Studio Code or any other IDE, you can run the same Python code anywhere. You can also go ahead and run this code in Google Colab as well. USmart is asking, how can we get the certificate after completing the course on YouTube? So for you guys to get the certificate, attending the YouTube session is not enough. So these YouTube sessions are for free. But if you want to get a certificate, you'd have to complete a course on Great Learning Academy, and only when you complete a course on Great Learning Academy, that is when you will, you'll go ahead and get the certificate. Digvijay is asking, can we do the same in PyCharm? Absolutely. As I've told you, irrespective of whatever IDE you're using, Python will remain Python, isn't it? All of this is Python code, and whatever Python IDE you're using, you can go ahead and run the same Python code in all of these IDEs. Pratik is asking, so in industries, can we use Jupyter Notebook? Yes. So if you're working in real life industry projects, most of these tasks are done with Jupyter Notebook. And since this is a browser based interpreter, it's actually easier to share, to share and collaborate the code with Jupyter Notebook. Yes, the code right now which I am showing is web scraping crickbuzz.ipynb. Priyanshu, you would need an IDE. So whatever IDE you're using, you can you can perform web scraping. That is totally up to you. You can either use Jupyter Notebook, you can use PyCharm, you can use Visual Studio Code. Whatever you're comfortable with, you can perform web scraping in that particular IDE. Right, so I'll take up the rest of the questions later on. So right now, if you have any questions, put them up. We'll cover them later. And for those folks who have just joined in our session, I'd request you guys to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon, as it will notify you with respect to whatever new sessions we are coming up with. And also it will encourage us to come up with more such live sessions on a regular basis. And also you can you can spread the word of mouth about Great Learning and Great Learning Academy with your peers or with your colleagues, so that even they can upskill themselves during this period of pandemic. So let's go back to our session. So we have installed Beautiful Soup 4. We have installed this request library. After that, we would have to import all of the libraries needed for this particular task. So we would need time. So we'd have to, whenever we are sending a request, we'd have to add a slight delay. That is why we would require this time library. We would require Beautiful Soup because this helps us to parse the text which is there in the website. Then we would need the request library because you would have to send a request to the particular website. Let me go ahead and run everything over here. What I'll do is I'll actually restart and clear the output so that it will be much more intuitive for you guys to understand what is happening over here. So I'll go ahead and run this again. So now that we have imported all of this, we'll have to, so I'm trying to scrape data through this site called as crickbuzz.com. So I believe most of the attendees, for today's live session are from India, and we as Indians are very passionate about cricket. So I just thought let's scrape some data through this website called as crickbuzz.com. So let me go ahead and open up crickbuzz.com for you guys, and this is the website. Now you have a lot of different aspects over here, isn't it? So you have these side headlines over here, you have these main headlines, then you have a short summary of this. Now I want to extract this short summary wherever it is present. So all of these, you can consider these to be different elements. So I'd want to, from all of these different elements, I'd want to extract this particular element, which is a summary for the headline. So we'll be extracting this, we'll be extracting this. Similarly, we'll have, we'll have this. Now let's actually see how can we inspect these elements. So to inspect the elements, we'd have to get the HTML code, and to get the HTML code of this data site, you have to go ahead and press Ctrl+Shift+I. Remember this, remember the combination, folks. So the combination is Ctrl+Shift+I, and when you press Ctrl+Shift+I, you will get this HTML code over here. And now after this, go ahead and press Ctrl+Shift+C. When you press Ctrl+Shift+C, you can go ahead and examine each particular element over here. So as you see, when I put my mouse cursor over here, this turns blue. Similarly, when I put my mouse cursor over here, this again turns blue. When I put my mouse cursor over here, this again turns blue. And now, since I want to extract these elements, these are short summaries for all of the headlines, I'll just click on this. Now when I click on this, you would see that this is basically this text, or this piece of web text is present inside of the division tag. Now as you see, the board clarified that the players have been paid their ICC prize money, and that is what we have over here. Now what is important is not this piece of text. What is more important is this tag and the class which is given to this particular tag. So now what we want is, we want all of the text which is present inside the division tag, and the class of this division tag is equal to CB news intro. Right, now similarly, let's say if instead of this, if I would have, let me again have Control Shift C. After pressing Control Shift C, if I press on this, you would again see that this is the tag is division and the class is CB news intro. But let me actually check something else. Let's say if I want to check the the HTML text for this particular element over here, let me have Control Shift C. I'll click on this. Now when I click on this, you would see that the tag is IMG and the class is completely different. Class is pad0ng isolate scope something else. Right, so now that we know how can we inspect an element and how can we get the tag and class of that particular element. So for now we would want the tag and class for these short summaries. Now that is clear, we'll go ahead and send a request to this CricBuzz website. After sending a request, we will get a response, and that response is being stored in this page object. Now let me just go ahead and run this entire piece of code over here. So this has been executed. Let me just insert one more cell above this. Insert cell above. I will have page printed out over here. So we get the result as response 200, which basically means that the request which we sent to this particular website has been accepted by the website, and this has given us a response. That's it. And we have kept this request inside the try block because most of the times it might happen that the website will not accept your request. So if the website does not accept your request, then we'll get an error and we'll have to handle that error. And that is why this piece of code has been kept inside the try block. Now, once we get the response, if we get an error, we'll handle the error in this exception block. But if there is no error, we can proceed with the rest of the code. Now, here with this particular command over here, time.sleep2. So normally what happens is, if you're automating your task and if you're sending a lot of requests to a particular page, then that particular page might tag you as a bot, and it might ban you from that particular website. So that is why it's important to keep a delay between the request which you send to that particular website. So here I am, I have a delay of 2 seconds over here. So I keep it on sleep for 2 particular seconds, 2.sleep2, and this would help me to ensure that I am not banned from this particular website, or I'm not tagged as a bot for this particular website. So we get the response, we add a delay, and as you see over here, whatever is present, all of this, so whatever is present on this website, it is written with this HTML code, isn't it? So we have written everything with this HTML code, and we have to convert this HTML code, or we have to parse this HTML code. So to parse the HTML code, we would require this beautiful soup method. So we had installed the beautiful soup 4, and with the help of this beautiful soup method, we will be parsing all of the HTML text which is present. So this takes in 2 parameters. The first parameter is page.text, because we'll have to convert everything into text, and this is a HTML parser, and we will store it in this object called as soup. Now let me run out the result of soup over here. So you would see that I have extracted the entire HTML code from this website. So whatever is present for this entire website, the entire piece of HTML code over here, I have extracted that entire piece of HTML code. Now that this is done, if I only want this particular text, right, because I don't want the entire HTML code, I would only want to extract these summary lines which are present. And for that purpose, I have this method called as find all. So on top of this HTML text which I have extracted, I am using the find all method, and I would want to find all division tags. I would want to find all division tags for which the attribute is class and the value of class is equal to CB news intro. And I will store all of that in this new object called as links, and this will give me a list of all of the text. Now once I have that, I'll just go ahead and print out each line which is present in this links object. So here I will have for I in links print I dot text, and when I hit on run, you would see that we have successfully extracted each particular line. So here you have both of them composed stunts as the tourists chase down the target of 329 in the final over. So see, this is the first line, which is same. Then we have the second line over here. The current title rights deal is worth INR 440 crore per season, and this is the second summary line over here. Third summary line, the hosts haven't won the first test of any series since against Sri Lanka in 2018. And again, we have the same particular line over here. So this is how we have extracted the summary, the summary text from the ClickBuzz website. So now guys, I'll go ahead and take up some of your questions. If you have any questions, put them up in the chat. So if you want access to this notebook, you can check out the link which is there in the chat. From there, you will get access to this. So I'll see all of the certificates which are there on Great Learning Academy. They are absolutely free. So if you want to check out those courses, you can go ahead to Great Learning Academy and you can check out all of those courses. You don't have to pay a single rupee to enroll for these courses. Neville is asking if we can do a video on WhatsApp web scraping using R or even Python. Sure, well, have that in mind. Well, definitely see if we can have a session on scraping data from WhatsApp. Mafila, all of the live sessions, they will be automatically uploaded on our YouTube channel. So after the session, you can just come back to our YouTube channel, just given the name or the title of the video, and you can watch the entire video again. Embedded stuff is asking how do we identify website from where we can get data. So this is just a random website which I decided to pick up. There's nothing. So you can go to any website and you can you can scrape data from it. So yeah, very interesting question from Pratik. So he's asking, is web scraping considered legal? It is absolutely legal. So most of you would have this doubt between web scraping and hacking. So the simple answer is web scraping is legal and it has nothing to do with hacking. So it's as simple as Control C, Control V, isn't it? Now let's say if I go ahead and copy this particular text and if I paste it over here, this wouldn't be considered as hacking. All I'm doing is copying the text over here and I'm pasting over here. What web scraping does is it automates this process. Now instead of me actually going ahead and performing Control C, Control V for each line which is present, I've just written a simple Python code over here, and this simple Python code will get me all of these summary lines from this particular website. So I hope that answers your question. Web scraping is extremely legal and it has got nothing to do with hacking. Embedded stuff is asking, do all websites allow you to scrape the data? What to do if website kicks you out the scraping request? This again is a very good question. So it is correct that not all of the websites allow you to scrape data from it. And if you, now this is the case where when the website doesn't allow you to scrape data and you find some evasive way to scrape data, that is when you are crossing the boundary of the boundary of hacking. So if the website gives you the permission to copy the data, then it is not hacking. You're just scraping the data which is for public out there. But if the website restricts you from accessing that, then you can't actually go ahead and do that. So some of you folks are asking if we can extract tabular data or images from a website. Yes, absolutely, we can do that. But in today's session, we just have performed a simple web scraping where we have only extracted text-based data. So we'll also conduct a session where we'll see how to extract image-based data and tabular data from a website. Rohit Sethi is asking, can you do this in R language? Absolutely. The same web scraping can be performed with R as well. And also another advantage of R is you have this library called as Shiny R, with the help of which you can create dashboards straight out of R. Neville is asking, Python versus R with respect to web scraping. In terms of this, I'd say both of them have their own advantages. So normally people prefer doing it with Python because Python is more intuitive with respect to web scraping. But where R takes over Python in terms of web scraping is Shiny R, because you can go ahead and create a beautiful dashboard. Let's say you scrape some data from any website and you want to show it in terms of a dashboard. You can use this library called as Shiny R and create a dashboard straight out of R. But if you have to do the same with Python, then maybe you'd have to integrate Python with a BI tool such as Tableau or Power BI, and that is when you can go ahead and create a dashboard. So this is the take between Python versus R. So the demo of web scraping in R, we'll conduct that in some other session. So in today's session, we'll just only have this. So keep posting your questions, guys. So this was with respect to this CricBuzz website. Now, similarly, with we'll try to extract some information from Amazon.com. So we've got some reviews about iPhone. So let me just have that with me. Let me open up this new notebook over here, and I've got a bunch of reviews for iPhone. I'll just copy this entire address. I'll close this as well. I'll open up a new tab and let me paste it over here. And you would see that we have these Amazon reviews of Apple iPhone 11 Pro 256 GB, and I would want to extract all of these reviews by these different people. So if I want that, again I'd want to know what is the tag of this and what is the class of this. So I'd have to press Ctrl+Shift+I. When I press Ctrl+Shift+I, I have all of this HTML code with me, and I'd want to know what is the HTML code for this particular element. So to highlight the element, I'll be pressing Ctrl+Shift+C. Now here you see that I have this particular piece of text. Let me click on this. You would see that the tag is span and the class is a size base. Let me go to this particular notebook, and here you see we have the same tag and same class. So tag is span for this, and class which we have given to this is a size base. and the entire text is same. So first we send a request to this website, we get a response, and we keep it in try catch block, because if Amazon.com does not accept our request, we'd have to handle it. So here, once we get the response, we'd have to parse the HTML data which is present. So inside Beautiful Soup, we'll have page.txt and HTML parser, and we'll store it in soup. Then with the help of the find all method, I would want to find all the span tags over here. So I'd want to find all of the span tags, and in those span tags, the class value has to be equal to a size base. And once we do that, let me just go ahead and print out. So when I print out the result, this is what we get. So let me actually run this entire thing for you guys. So we have sent a request. Now after this, all I have to do is run this piece of line. So I have the results in links, and I'm starting a for loop, and I would want to print each line which is present in this particular this particular piece of HTML. So if I scroll down, you would see that these are the different reviews over here. So you see we have best phone in the smartphone market, hands down. And then you have you have to love Apple, because they not only make amazing product, they make magic. Then you have this particular line, a smartphone that is not smart, and a 1 lakh phone for just phone call. So this is how we have extracted all of the reviews for iPhone 11. So guys, we are done with today's session. If you have any more questions, put them up in the chat. We will take them up. Rahul is asking, can we scrape the Nifty and Sensex values from time to time? Sure. If the website allows you to scrape data, you can absolutely do that. So send a request and see if you get a response, and if you can maybe scrape data with respect to the rise of all of the stocks, you can go ahead and do that. Arpita is asking if we can take a session on machine learning. Arpita, we have conducted a lot of sessions in machine learning till now. You can go to our channel and check out all of the existing videos on machine learning. So we've done Python for machine learning, we've done R for machine learning. So we would have easily conducted around 20 to 25 sessions on machine learning. So you can just go to our channel and check out all of these live sessions. Sonu is asking, how do we scrape data? How do we perform web scraping? Sonu, I mean, if you have watched this session, we have done exactly that, isn't it? We have gone to ClickBuzz website and we have scraped some data. Similarly, we went to Amazon.in and we again scraped some data from it. Okay, so I believe we are done with the session. So thank you very much for attending. And before I sign off, I'd like to tell you again about a free learning initiative known as Great Learning Academy, where we have almost 100 courses with respect to data science, cloud, artificial intelligence, statistics, and a lot more. And all of these courses have been curated by industry experts who have more than 15 years of experience. And once you complete the course, you'll get a certificate which you can go ahead and add onto your resume or onto your LinkedIn page. Now, once you do that, I'd also request you guys to go ahead and click on the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon, as it will notify you with respect to the new videos which we are coming up, and it will also encourage us to come up with more such regular sessions. So thank you very much.